Their relationship, however, was not without its challenges. Alina knew the risks of being involved with Victor's son, but her feelings for Nathan were undeniable. When Victor discovered their relationship, his reaction was swift and unforgiving. He confronted Alina, warning her to end things with Nathan. But Alina, determined to follow her heart, refused to comply. She ended her relationship with Victor and chose to be with Nathan, believing that she could finally escape Victor's grasp. What followed was a series of events that would lead to a tragic and violent conclusion. A wedding meant to symbolize love and new beginnings became the setting for a crime that would shock the nation. This is the story of how one man's obsession and jealousy led to an unthinkable act, and the devastating aftermath that followed. If you're intrigued by this story and want to uncover the shocking details of what happened next, stay tuned. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of True Crime Stories Arena. Now, let's dive deeper into this chilling case. Victor Langston was a man who thrived on control. At 52 years old, he had built a life that many envied. His real estate empire spanned across multiple states, and his wealth afforded him a lifestyle of luxury and influence. Victor was the kind of man who commanded attention when he entered a room. His tailored suits, expensive watches, and confident demeanor made him a figure of admiration and intimidation. But beneath the polished exterior was a man who craved power, not just in business but in his personal relationships as well. Victor's relationships with women were transactional, often built on his ability to provide financial security in exchange for companionship. He had no interest in traditional romance or emotional vulnerability. Instead, he sought relationships where he could maintain control, where his wealth and influence gave him the upper hand. It was during one of his frequent visits to an upscale lounge in Willow Creek that he met Alina Monroe. Alina was 24 years old, a strikingly beautiful woman with an air of confidence that belied her struggles. She had recently moved to Willow Creek, leaving behind a difficult past in search of a fresh start. Alina was ambitious and resourceful, but she was also vulnerable. She worked long hours at a local diner, barely making enough to cover her rent and expenses. When she met Victor, she saw an opportunity to escape her financial struggles and build a better life. Victor was immediately captivated by Alina. Her beauty, charm, and wit drew him in, and he wasted no time in making his intentions clear. He offered her a proposition: he would support her financially, pay for her education, and provide her with a life of comfort and luxury. In return, he expected her companionship and loyalty. Alina, seeing this as a chance to improve her circumstances, agreed to the arrangement. Their relationship began with grand gestures and extravagant gifts. Victor showered Alina with expensive jewelry, designer clothes, and trips to exotic destinations. He introduced her to a world of luxury she had never experienced before. But as time went on, the dynamics of their relationship became increasingly one-sided. Victor's generosity came with strings attached. He expected Alina to be available to him at all times, to prioritize his needs above her own, and to adhere to his rules. Alina quickly realized that Victor's charm masked a controlling and possessive nature. He monitored her every move, questioning her about her whereabouts and the people she interacted with. He made it clear that he expected her to remain loyal to him, warning her of the consequences if she ever betrayed his trust. Alina felt trapped, but she didn't see a way out. She had become financially dependent on Victor, and the thought of leaving him seemed impossible. Despite the challenges, Alina tried to maintain a sense of independence. She enrolled in college, pursuing a degree in business administration. She hoped that her education would eventually allow her to build a life of her own, free from Victor's control. But Victor saw her ambitions as a threat. He began to interfere with her studies, demanding more of her time and attention. Alina's dreams of independence seemed to slip further out of reach. It was during this time that Alina met Nathan Langston, Victor's estranged son. Nathan was 28 years old, a kind and compassionate man who had chosen a very different path from his father. While Victor thrived in the world of wealth and power, Nathan had distanced himself from it. He worked as a teacher, dedicating his life to helping others and living a modest, fulfilling life. Nathan and Victor had a strained relationship. Nathan had grown up witnessing his father's controlling and manipulative behavior, and he had made a conscious decision to forge his own path. He rarely spoke to his father and had little interest in the world Victor had built. But when Nathan met Alina, he couldn't help but be drawn to her. She was intelligent, kind, and driven, qualities that resonated with him deeply. Alina and Nathan's connection was immediate. They began as friends, bonding over their shared values and dreams. Nathan admired Alina's determination to create a better life for herself, and Alina found comfort in Nathan's kindness and understanding. Their friendship quickly blossomed into a romance, one that was genuine and untainted by ulterior motives. For Alina, being with Nathan was a breath of fresh air. He treated her with respect and kindness, valuing her for who she was rather than what she could offer. For the first time in years, Alina felt truly seen and loved. But their relationship was not without its challenges. Alina knew the risks of being involved with Victor's son. She knew that Victor would see their relationship as a betrayal, and she feared his reaction. When Victor discovered Alina and Nathan's relationship, his reaction was swift and unforgiving. He confronted Alina, accusing her of betrayal and warning her to end things with Nathan immediately. Victor's anger was palpable, and his threats were chilling. He reminded Alina of everything he had done for her, framing her relationship with Nathan as an act of disloyalty and ingratitude. But Alina refused to back down. She ended her relationship with Victor, choosing to be with Nathan despite the risks. She believed that her love for Nathan was worth the consequences, that she could finally escape Victor's control and build a life of her own. For a brief moment, it seemed as though Alina and Nathan might have a chance at happiness. Victor, however, was not a man who took rejection lightly. His anger and jealousy festered, consuming him. He saw Alina's relationship with Nathan not just as a betrayal but as a humiliation. In his mind, Alina had chosen his son over him, undermining his authority and control. Victor's obsession with power and dominance drove him to a breaking point, setting the stage for a tragedy that would shock the nation. Alina and Nathan's relationship continued to grow stronger despite the shadow of Victor's disapproval looming over them. They moved in together, creating a life that was simple but filled with love and mutual respect. For Alina, it was a fresh start, a chance to leave behind the control and manipulation she had endured with Victor. For Nathan, it was an opportunity to build a future with someone who shared his values and dreams. Together, they began planning their wedding, a celebration of their love and commitment to one another. The couple decided on a small, intimate ceremony. They wanted the day to be about their love, free from the complications of their past. Only close friends and family were invited, and the venue was a modest but charming garden in the heart of Willow Creek. Alina and Nathan were determined to keep the event low-key, hoping to avoid any interference from Victor. They knew he would not approve of their union, and they wanted to keep their special day free from his influence. As the wedding day approached, Alina and Nathan were filled with excitement and anticipation. They had worked hard to create a life together, and this day symbolized the beginning of a new chapter. Alina wore a simple but elegant gown, and Nathan looked dashing in a tailored suit. Their friends and family gathered to celebrate their love, offering heartfelt toasts and well wishes for their future. But Victor was not one to be ignored. Despite not receiving an invitation, he learned about the wedding through mutual acquaintances. The news of Alina and Nathan's impending marriage was a blow to his pride. In Victor's mind, Alina's decision to marry his son was the ultimate betrayal. It was not just a rejection of him but a public humiliation that he could not tolerate. His anger and jealousy consumed him, and he became fixated on the idea of stopping the wedding at any cost. On the day of the ceremony, Victor arrived uninvited. His presence was unexpected and unwelcome, casting a tense atmosphere over what was meant to be a joyous occasion. Dressed impeccably, he carried himself with an air of calm that belied the storm of emotions raging within him. Guests whispered among themselves, unsure of how to react to his arrival. Alina and Nathan, though surprised, chose to remain composed, determined not to let Victor ruin their day. Victor approached Alina during the reception, pulling her aside for a private conversation. Witnesses later described the exchange as tense, with Alina appearing visibly shaken when she returned to Nathan's side. What Victor said to her in that moment remains a mystery, but it was clear that his words had left an impact. Alina tried to brush it off, focusing on the celebration and the love she shared with Nathan. As the evening progressed, the couple retreated to their hotel suite, ready to begin their honeymoon. The suite was beautifully decorated, a romantic setting for the newlyweds. Nathan stepped out briefly to get ice, leaving Alina alone in the room. When he returned, he was met with a scene that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Alina was lying on the floor, lifeless, with clear signs of a violent struggle. The room was in disarray, and it was evident that she had fought for her life. Nathan's cries for help echoed through the hotel, drawing the attention of staff and guests. The police were called, and an investigation was launched immediately. Victor, who had been seen leaving the hotel earlier that evening, became the prime suspect. His history with Alina, his uninvited appearance at the wedding, and his volatile reaction to their relationship all pointed to him as the perpetrator. The murder of Alina Monroe sent shockwaves through Willow Creek. The community, which had gathered to celebrate the couple's love, was now mourning the loss of a young woman whose life had been cut short. The media quickly picked up the story, dubbing it the wedding day tragedy. The narrative of a father's jealousy leading to the death of his son's bride captivated the nation, sparking debates about power, control, and the consequences of unchecked emotions. Victor was arrested at his home the following day. The evidence against him was damning. Surveillance footage showed him entering the hotel shortly before Alina's death and leaving shortly after. A search of his home revealed a blood-stained shirt and a handwritten note that read, "She made her choice." The note, combined with witness testimonies and forensic evidence, painted a chilling picture of a man driven to commit an unthinkable act. During his interrogation, Victor maintained his innocence, claiming that he had only gone to the hotel to speak with Alina and had left before anything happened. He insisted that he had no intention of harming her and that someone else must have been responsible for her death. But his calm demeanor and calculated responses did little to convince investigators of his innocence. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and he was charged with first-degree murder. Nathan, devastated by the loss of his wife and the betrayal of his father, struggled to come to terms with what had happened. He had lost the woman he loved and the father he had tried so hard to distance himself from. The pain of that night would stay with him forever, a constant reminder of the cost of his father's obsession and jealousy. As the investigation continued, more details about Victor's relationship with Alina came to light. Witnesses described his controlling behavior and his possessiveness, painting a picture of a man who saw Alina not as a partner but as a possession. The prosecution used this information to build their case, arguing that Victor's inability to accept Alina's independence and her relationship with Nathan had driven him to commit murder. The trial that followed would captivate the nation, with every detail of the case dissected and analyzed. But for those who knew Alina and Nathan, it was a painful reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. The wedding that was meant to symbolize love and new beginnings had become the setting for a crime that would leave a lasting scar on everyone involved. The trial of Victor Langston became one of the most talked about cases in the country. The courtroom was packed with reporters, legal experts, and members of the public, all eager to witness the proceedings. The case had all the elements of a gripping drama: wealth, betrayal, and a shocking crime that had shattered a family. For weeks, the trial dominated headlines, with every new revelation adding to the public's fascination. The prosecution wasted no time in presenting their case. They painted Victor as a man consumed by jealousy and a need for control. They argued that his relationship with Alina had been built on manipulation and dominance, and when she chose to leave him for his son, it was a blow to his pride that he could not tolerate. The prosecution described Victor's actions as premeditated, pointing to the evidence found in his home, including the blood-stained shirt and the note that read, "She made her choice." They argued that Victor had gone to the hotel that night with the intention of confronting Alina and ensuring that she would never be with Nathan. Witness testimonies played a crucial role in the prosecution's case. Friends and acquaintances of Alina and Nathan described Victor's controlling behavior and his volatile reaction to their relationship. One witness, a close friend of Alina's, recounted a conversation in which Alina had expressed fear of Victor, saying that he had threatened her when she refused to end her relationship with Nathan. Another witness, a hotel employee, testified that they had seen Victor leaving the hotel in a hurry on the night of the murder, looking visibly agitated. The defense, on the other hand, sought to portray Victor in a different light. They argued that he was a heartbroken father who had been pushed to the edge by the betrayal of his son and the woman he cared for. They claimed that Victor had gone to the hotel that night to speak with Alina, hoping to convince her to reconsider her decision. The defense insisted that Victor had no intention of harming Alina and that her death was the result of an altercation that had spiraled out of control. They pointed to Victor's clean criminal record and his reputation as a successful businessman, arguing that he was not the type of person who would commit such a heinous act. Victor himself took the stand, maintaining his innocence and insisting that he had only wanted to talk to Alina. He described feeling hurt and betrayed by her relationship with Nathan, but he denied having any intention of harming her. His testimony was calm and measured, but it did little to sway the jury. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and his attempts to justify his actions only served to highlight his inability to accept Alina's independence and her choice to be with Nathan. The trial lasted for several weeks, with both sides presenting compelling arguments. The jury deliberated for 3 days before reaching a verdict. When the decision was announced, the courtroom was silent, the tension palpable. Victor Langston was found guilty of first-degree murder. The judge, in his closing remarks, condemned Victor's actions as a selfish and calculated act of violence and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Nathan, the verdict brought a sense of closure but also a deep sense of loss. He had lost his wife, the woman he loved, and his father, a man he had spent his life trying to distance himself from. The pain of that night would stay with him forever, a constant reminder of the cost of his father's obsession and jealousy. Nathan chose to leave Willow Creek, unable to bear the memories of what had happened. He moved to a new city, hoping to start over and rebuild his life. The trial also had a profound impact on the community of Willow Creek. The case had exposed the darker side of human nature, forcing people to confront uncomfortable truths about power, control, and the consequences of unchecked emotions. It served as a reminder of the importance of recognizing and addressing toxic relationships before they escalate into something far more dangerous. The media coverage of the trial was relentless, with every detail of the case dissected and analyzed. True crime enthusiasts debated the motives behind Victor's actions, while legal experts discussed the implications of the verdict. The case became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of how love, when tainted by obsession and control, can lead to devastating consequences. In the years that followed, Nathan worked to honor Alina's memory. He established a scholarship fund in her name, dedicated to helping young women pursue their education and achieve their dreams. For Nathan, it was a way to ensure that Alina's legacy would live on, even in the face of such a tragic loss. Victor, meanwhile, spent the rest of his life in prison. He remained unrepentant, refusing to take responsibility for his actions. His wealth and influence, which had once given him power and control, were meaningless behind bars. He became a cautionary figure, a man whose inability to let go of his need for dominance had destroyed not only his own life but the lives of those around him. The story of Victor Langston, Alina Monroe, and Nathan Langston remains one of the most tragic and compelling cases in true crime history. It is a story of love and betrayal, of power and control, and of the devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. It serves as a reminder of the importance of recognizing the warning signs of toxic relationships and the need to address them before it's too late. The events surrounding the tragic death of Alina Monroe left an indelible mark on everyone involved. For Nathan Langston, the loss was immeasurable. He had not only lost the woman he loved but also been forced to confront the horrifying reality of his father's actions. Nathan's grief was compounded by the betrayal he felt. His father, the man who should have been a source of guidance and protection, had instead become the architect of his greatest pain. In the months following the trial, Nathan chose to leave Willow Creek. The memories of his life there were too painful to bear, and he needed a fresh start. He moved to a new city, far from the shadow of his father's legacy, and began working as a teacher once again. Though the pain of losing Alina never fully left him, Nathan found solace in helping others. He poured his energy into his work, using his experiences to teach his students about resilience, empathy, and the importance of making choices rooted in kindness and respect. Nathan also took steps to honor Alina's memory. He established the Alina Monroe Scholarship Fund, aimed at supporting young women who, like Alina, were striving to overcome difficult circumstances and build a better future. The fund provided financial assistance for education, empowering recipients to pursue their dreams without the constraints of financial hardship. For Nathan, the scholarship was a way to ensure that Alina's legacy would live on, inspiring others to achieve the life she had worked so hard to create. For the community of Willow Creek, the case served as a wake-up call. The story of Victor Langston and his actions forced people to confront uncomfortable truths about power, control, and the dangers of unchecked emotions. Conversations about toxic relationships, emotional abuse, and the importance of recognizing warning signs became more prevalent. Local organizations began offering workshops and resources to educate people about healthy relationship dynamics, hoping to prevent similar tragedies in the future. Victor Langston, meanwhile, spent the rest of his life in prison. Stripped of his wealth and influence, he became a shadow of the man he once was. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Victor never admitted guilt or expressed remorse for his actions. His refusal to take responsibility only deepened the pain for those he had hurt, leaving a legacy of destruction and loss. The story of Victor, Alina, and Nathan became a cautionary tale, one that resonated far beyond the borders of Willow Creek. It highlighted the devastating consequences of obsession and the importance of respecting the autonomy and choices of others. It also underscored the resilience of those left behind, like Nathan, who found a way to turn his pain into purpose. As we reflect on this case, we are reminded of the fragility of human relationships and the importance of addressing toxic behaviors before they escalate. Alina's story, though tragic, serves as a powerful reminder of the need for compassion, understanding, and the courage to stand up against control and manipulation. Thank you for watching this episode of True Crime Stories Arena. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on our latest stories. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What lessons do you think we can take from this case? Until next time, stay safe and take care of one another.